what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I will be going over all of my lowest rated and DNFs for the entirety of 2022. So bear in mind this video is being filmed on Sunday, December 18th, so anything that I have read from this day to the rest of the year is not being counted in those low rates in DNF because I had to get this video pre-filmed for the end of the year, so this does not include anything from the last 2 full weeks of the year of 2022. So essentially what I will be doing is going through my bullet journal of all of the books I had read in the year of 2022 and talking about anything that was 2 stars or lower and anything that was a DNF in terms of why I didn't like them, stuff like that. So I can't say for certain that in January I did not have anything that was low rated or a DNF. In February though, I did have 2 DNFs, which were Love and Luck by Jenna Evans Welch. I just don't think that this type of contemporary is for me. It was way too annoyingly, stupid, if that makes sense. And the other was Republic by Plato. I don't know why I tried to read this. I thought I was going to be able to handle it. Too highbrow for me. In March, I had 1 2-star read, which was Black House by Stephen King and Peter Straub, and honestly, because of how that duology had went, this pretty much completely turned me off from ever reading Stephen King ever again, for the most part. Or at least it wasn't very long after this that I just decided to stop reading Stephen King in his entirety. In April, I had 1 DNF, which was The Betrayals by Bridget Collins. I just did not care for the writing style. I couldn't really figure out what was going on in the story, even though it seems like a lot of people really liked this. I couldn't get into it, unfortunately, even though I really, really wanted to. In May, I had 1 2-star read, which was The Fires of Heaven by Robert Jordan. Around this time, I started getting really bogged down with the Wheel of Time series because I was reading so much of it at the beginning part of this year. I think it might have been just after this, or this may have been the book that I completely just stopped reading and haven't picked it up since, but I would like to be able to finish it eventually. This just kind of was way too much going into it, way too complicated, and I just had to take a second to really focus on other books. In June, I also had 1 2-star read, which was The Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in the second series within Mistborn called the Wax and Wane series. I don't know what it is about this series in particular. I just didn't like it. It didn't have the same feel as Mistborn, and I really could not follow much of what was happening. July, I had 2 2-stars and 2 DNF. The first 2-star was Bands of Mourning by Brandon Sanderson. This was the 3rd book in the Wax and Wane series that I had just spoken about. Again, don't really know what was going on in this. I'm kind of on the fence of whether or not I want to read the 4th book that came out earlier in this year. I don't care for these characters really at all, and I just don't know if it's anything I'm interested in anymore. The first DNF I had in the month was Wild and Wicked Things by Francesca May. Again, did not really care for the writing style of this. I got bored very quickly. I didn't feel like I was really getting anything out of the story, and so I just decided to not continue with it. The second 2-star read I had this month was The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This book was just a travesty. I don't understand how anybody thought this was actually scary because nothing scary actually happened. And if anything, it just seemed like a hodgepodge of stuff that wanted to make itself be cool, and it was just a bunch of nonsense. And the second DNF I had was Specialty Topics in Calamity Physics by Marisha Pessl. I could not stomach the first 50 pages of this. It was god-awful writing. I don't know why this was a thing, because I don't even understand what the whole point of this was supposed to be. In August, I had 1 DNF, and that was from Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I did not really like the first scene that I had seen with Hawk and Poppy, where it almost is like Poppy kind of does a non-consensual sexual interaction with Hawk. It's not okay, and I really, even after 100 pages, was losing the point of the story and really was just not enjoying Poppy as a character to where I wanted to actually see what happened to her. I just lost complete interest in this. In September, I had 1 2-star, which was A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I really wanted to like this book at first, but again, just couldn't really feel like I could grasp onto the main point of the story. I feel like I didn't see the point in it, and I just did not really enjoy the story at all. I couldn't even follow what was going on for probably at least 75% of the book. In October, I had nothing that was below a 2-star, and I had no DNFs. And I had the same results in November where there was nothing below a 2-star, and I had no DNFs in that month as well. Sorry about that, I had to switch to filming on my phone because my battery died for my camera and my other battery is still currently charging. So what I was saying was, in December, I did have 3 DNFs in the entire month, basically as of Sunday, December 18th. And a couple of them were really big surprises in terms of DNFs. The first of which was The Governess Game by Tessa Dare. This is the second book in the Girl Meets Duke series, and I did not care necessarily for any of the friends that were mentioned in the Duchess deal, and I cared even less for the character that was brought up in The Governess Game that we were going to be following, because this is a companion series where each book follows a different girl in the same storyline. It's each of their respective romances. I didn't like this. I didn't like the guy. I didn't like her. None of it was enjoyable for me, so I just stopped reading it. The second book that I DNF'd was probably my most disappointing read of the entire year, and that was The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. I DNF'd this about almost halfway through because the first 100 pages were actually really interesting. I really enjoyed, learning about some of the characters, but after that 100 pages, it seemed like the stakes had completely gone away. I stopped caring about the characters, and it just really became this very catty kind of competition, and I was not a fan of it. And I was really disappointed with this because I had heard a lot of people say that they thought I would enjoy this. I wanted to like it so much, but after that first 100 pages, I just lost complete interest. And the last book I DNF'd so far this year is Wolf Song by TJ Klune. This is the first book in the Green Creek series. That is, I believe, a whole shapeshifter kind of story. I don't like the writing style. I didn't understand anything of what was supposed to be going on with the plot. I lost complete interest, honestly, from page 1. And the only reason I waited to DNF this was so that I could reach that 10% mark and be certain that this was not something for me, and it definitely wasn't. But even from page 1, I was very just not vibing with it. Not something I was really interested in. But those are all of the books I ended up having as low ratings and DNFs this year. So let's go ahead and tally up all of those and see how much out of my total reads this month were that. So according to my stats, which is all of my low rated and DNFs out of everything I tried to read or completed so far this year, 15 of the books I read this year were either 2 stars or lower or DNFs out of a total of 120 books that I've either completed or at least attempted this year. So with that said, that means that about 12.5% of the reads I had this year were 2 stars or lower or DNFs, which is not a bad rating. That's basically almost just over 1 out of every 10 books was a bad one, which I think that's a pretty good, setup. I think that's a pretty good average in terms of, how many books it takes before I find one bad one. And I will say, like I said, most of the books this year I read, I enjoyed. So out of all of that, 105 books were ones that were 3 stars or up. So I think that's pretty good for this year, honestly. That's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be and would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.